Hi everyone, so this is a little podcast to talk about our new album, Winter Solstice. I'm Asbjorn, and I do guitars and vocals, as well as mixing and production for the band. So first, I'd like to start off with some thank yous. Big thank you to Black Metal Promotion for uploading our album to YouTube. As well, I'd like to thank all of our fans, our family, friends, anybody who's bought the album, anybody who's listened to the album and supported us. And of course, I'd like to thank you for bothering to listen to this podcast. Alright, so let's get right to it. I think I'll get this question a lot, kind of what inspired the album. Well, it was born out of many hours of listening to bands like Rotting Christ, Watain, Mayhem, Satyricon, and other bands, of that caliber. We sort of thought to ourselves we wanted to incorporate these styles into our own music. So myself and Althagor, we got writing a lot of riffs. Myself constructing things like Aeon, Black Magic Heresy, Ave Sathanas, Hiraeth, and then Althagor came up with Permafrost, main riffs for Winter Solstice, and Hellfire. Then it was really kind of a case of slotting it all together, and adding little trem leads and synths, and getting the feel we really wanted. Of course then, we'd take it to Shotflatter and Dominus for them to work their dark sorcery and create those awesome bass lines and drum beats. I think our writing dynamic works nicely, as it kind of lets us create in our own ways, and it gives us each some creative freedom, which you can really hear on the album. Yeah, songs like Aeon would definitely not be the same if we had gone with the initial idea, which was kind of like a Watain or Mayhem stylistically. Actually had some tempo changes, although I think they came about from not really practicing to a metronome. However, we do that now. So Dominus uses a metronome now to keep us in time, which is pretty good. Anyway, Aeon, yes. That whole part where Dominus plays the ride and hats with the double kicks underneath, where I do the low growls, it's definitely a part I'm glad we added. We always call that bit the octopus beat. I don't really know why. Another bit we added was the changing chord progression nearish the end. Pretty sure Shotflatter came up with that bit, but yeah, these marching snares at the end. I just love that part. Oh, it's just great, that marching snare with the guitars and the bass all get, beautiful. So, keeping with the old school theme of Aeon, Warriors has got a sort of similar roots, maybe a bit of Dark Throne influence thrown in too. I remember writing the majority of that one whilst actually a party was going on downstairs in my house. I was so desperate to get this song finished and take to the rest of the band, I set up a rough recording, just jammed out for an hour or so. Basically missed like the first part of the party, but totally worth it, totally worth it. So Hiraeth, that's kind of an interesting one. I had this clean riff, which is the beginning part you hear, right at the beginning. That sort of opener, that's the original idea. But I kind of had no idea where else to go with this song. So after jamming it with Althagor, we decided on the way it is now. Well, actually he told me the first riff is really cool, and we needed to play it again. So we did that as a distorted version, and then we did it again. And I definitely agree with him that it was much better the way it is now. The way it would have been originally, probably not as good. Right, so the next on the album, Pale Apparition. That was quite fun for me to make, really. I played around with some bongos, had this idea to add to Winter Solstice, which Althagor had already written the main riff for. So yeah, I kind of played around with the bongos, some acoustic guitar, that's what you hear. Although sadly that acoustic is kind of dead now. Sorry, Althagor. That was his guitar. The next two songs were definitely Althagor's riffs. He made those main riffs, I added some trems, synths and chord inversions, finishing touches you might say. But I mean, really the finishing touches all come from Dominus and Shotflatter. The fantastic thunderous bass that Shotflatter always adds in, it really just sort of locks it together, So, yeah, I'm not really sure why we chose Winter Solstice to be the single. I guess it's got every element to our music. It's got blasts, it's got double kicks, it's got trem riffs, but also kind of a more relaxed feel. And yeah, it really does convey all of our sound kind of in one piece together, which is really nice. Now, Underworld, that's kind of an interesting one. So originally, Black Magic Heresy had a totally different intro, which was a much lighter synth piece with some rain in the background. But Shotflatter made this intro, and well, we just had to have it. You know what? I'll put on the original intro for Black Magic now for you. And this one is the new version, Underworld, so I'll just play all of Underworld for you. That really dark ambient with the bass line from the song, it kind of fits what the song really needed. As well, it kind of a calm before the storm, because, well, Black Magic Heresy is pretty intense. A lot of blast beats, very frantic, and this song and Hellfire as well are both inspired by that kind of behemoth sound and that intensity that they often have. Hellfire is actually a real beast of a track, really an onslaught of blasts, and wow, lots of trem picking. It's kind of a tough one to play just because of the chord shape we have to hold. It really hurts to play, and I know Shotflatter did some really cool butterfly bass under there. Wow, it's a tricky one. Such a great song though. I think it might be my personal favourite as well. Little build-ups, dying down, the little mini solo where the guitars play octaves. I think that's around 3 minutes in. Oh, that part is, wow. That was one of my favourites to come up with and play on the recording as well. I just couldn't get enough of playing that. And then the little parts that Dominus does on that song, drumming, just fantastic stuff. Watching him play that was a real treat, I'd say. Real treat. Anyhow, the last thing would be the bonus tracks, which are on the CD. So, Revelation is an interesting track I wrote, never really finished. Although we played it a couple times live. The way you hear it on the CD is kind of roughly how it would have sounded if you'd heard us play in early 2019. The other bonus tracks are variations of Winter Solstice. One is a slightly slowed down version with the orchestra, and the other one is just pure orchestra alone. And we kind of thought to do those because, you know, just orchestra as a sound, it really fills out the sound. And I thought I was kind of really listening to a bit of classical music at the time and kind of wanted to incorporate a bit of that, so we got writing, a bit of MIDI, and that's what you hear on the album, yeah. Alright, so that's every track on the album talked about, pretty good. Now, onto production. So if you're wondering about guitar tone, here's the secret. Joyo Zombie through Celestion V30s, and the guitar fitted with lovely EMGs. So yeah, secret Mesa Boogie dual rec copies. Althigor's parts were also recorded with the Mesa copy, but I think that one was actually an amp called the Heart Attack, and that was through V60 speakers. Celestion as well. So The drums, they were great fun to record. We headed over to Longwave Studio, which is Ramesh Dodongoda's studio. Sorry if I said that wrong. And we had our engineer, Tim Vincent, recording. Great fun. I was in the control room with Tim. We'd just be rocking out to Dominus's awesome drumming. Oh man, and then the breaks. We've watched this great show, Norsemen. So funny. Can't recommend it enough. Great. I think it's on Netflix, so give that a watch for sure. Overall, tracking drums really, really fast. All done in one weekend, which is a feat, I'm sure. Some bands probably take a long time over these things, but I think it really helped that we got the songs 100% written and really well rehearsed. Dominus had been practicing a lot, so I think that really definitely helped while we were in the studio. So, a little bit about Shotflatter's awesome thunderous bass lines. He tells me I actually misspoke about how the bass tone was achieved. He said it's DI bass, and whatever he does with it, it sounds great. It was really mix ready as well. That was something I really liked about the mixing of this whole album, that all the instruments very mix ready. We really endeavoured, I think, to get the recording parts perfect. So the mixing was mostly just running a few compressors, bit of reverb, tiny bit of EQ, but really nothing too revolutionary. Didn't need a lot of changing. Everything was great out the box. Just put it all together, worked perfectly. Yeah, doing the mixing and mastering was pretty fun. I gotta say, it was pretty fun making a second version of Ave Sathanas as well. That was kind of fun. Hyper raw, really nasty guitars. I just did that bit, just for a laugh, really. Room mics on the drums. It pretty lo-fi, kind of an homage to those really old 90s bands and the way they produced their albums, back on tape in the day. So really trying to emulate that. So, tell you what, I'll put a little part of that on just now for you. You can have a listen. And for comparison, here's a little bit of the actual version of the song. Yeah, I hope you'll agree that sounds pretty good. I think I'd much rather our production is the cleaner version, where you can really hear every instrument with a lot of clarity. I think a lot of the 90s bands had some great sounds at the time, but for us, we really want to convey every instrument, and so you can hear every part of the record nice and clearly. I always find that that's something I just enjoy to hear on a record. So, anyway, that's it for this podcast. Maybe I'll do another one sometime, dunno. Not really my forte, but there we go. Right, and if you've not listened to Winter Solstice by now, but you've listened to this podcast this far, then what are you doing? Go listen to Winter Solstice. It's on every streaming service, no excuses, on our Bandcamp. You can grab a CD, grab a digital download, whatever you want. Alright, all good. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and see you next time.